speaking into this okay? All right. So I'm Dr. William Michel. I'm Ryan's partner in Ishar, which is funded by the Chopra organization. But we're independent of it. And I'm also a biophysical anthropologist at MIT in research division. So that was a great presentation, Ryan. And there's some complementarity between mine and his, although you'll see that I'm actually the high-tech person when it comes to the slides. But anyway, first I want to thank CBS and the Central Monastic Body, Dasho Karma Ura, Ian Baker, and Jimmy, and all the staff that have been doing such a great job here throughout. I'm very grateful to all of you. So my talk, in a way, is complementary to Ryan's, where Ryan is in this work, which he's doing brilliant and pioneering work in, is looking at the positive effects of virtual reality and immersive reality. There are also, in my sense, some not so positive ones, which are associated with transhumanism and excessive interest in robotics. And what I see in Vajrayāna is a form of the most profound humanism. One might even say superhumanism, although that term is misused. I've been focusing on advanced practitioners of Vajrayāna and other traditions for many years as my research field. And one of the ironies of the work in virtual reality and robotics, or what's also called transhumanism, is that discoveries have been made about enormous potential that human beings have. And it's usually latent. But again, Vajrayāna practices have been perfected for centuries and centuries on how to make these come out. And that's actually the subject of my talk. But looking at it from a perspective of discoveries in physics and what's called biophysics and psychophysics, the physics of humans. And ironically, a number of these discoveries have come through research on interfaces between humans and virtual reality and robotics. So this is news that what I'm going to be sharing here is actually, in a lot of ways, mainly big news for you. Because what I found is that most people aren't aware of it, but it's out there. For example, let me just ask, how many people in the audience are aware of the fact that a human being can see a single photon of light? No. Oh, yeah, those two guys, and they're cheated a little bit because I've told them about it. Anyway, somebody here? Me? Oh, you did? Oh, okay. So this was actually been in the process of discovery for a number of years, but conclusively found in 2016. It's part of a field of research that's being pioneered not by enlightened neuroscientists that are friendly to meditation, but actually to mainstream leading physicists who I've been tracking for years, that I could see they were interested in this human ability to perceive on a quantum level. So all the work that I'm going to be talking about from the scientists are leading scientists, including Nobel Prize winners, historic figures, and published in leading scientific journals exclusively and associated with leading scientific institutions. So this is a headline from Scientific American. Also, by the way, all the quotes that I give are from leading scientific periodicals. I'm probably going to be way behind schedule, but we'll see what we can do. So Nature, as many of you probably know, is one of the leading journals, scientific. This came out as a review of the study, which was also published in a Nature journal. People can sense single photons. Experiments suggest that humans are capable of perceiving even the feeblest flash of light. Now, that's profound enough in itself that a single photon can be perceived consciously by a human being. But it's also the stepping stone to being able to perceive quantum entanglement, which is a very profound, fundamental, and major discovery in human history. How many people are at least nominally familiar with quantum entanglement? And you're welcome to cheat too, because I would love to see a few more hands. Anyway, very quickly, quantum entanglement refers to the fact that any particles that have ever been connected remain connected through all of space and time, no matter how far apart they are. So, for example, we'll be talking about photons. Two photons are particles of light, atoms of light. If they've ever been connected, they could be separated in different parts of the universe. And if you do something to one, it will affect the other one instantaneously. It will move faster than the speed of light. So what it is really is it's talking about a profound fundamental connectivity between everything. And, you can probably sense where this can be heading in terms of the Vajrayāna context, connectivity. So unfortunately, it's hard to present this without getting into some details. And I wish I could make it a little bit bigger, but I'm going to read it, which is going to be a little tricky. Let me see how I can do this best. Thank you. Okay, great. Describing the nature of this research I've been referring to in progress several months ago in Scientific American, Anil Anaswamy wrote of the intention of one of the several teams in this research movement to use, quote, to use human vision to probe the very foundations of quantum mechanics, which is the basic physics that is the main paradigm in our world and all of our technology is based on. According to one of the physicists on the team, Rebecca Holmes of Los Alamos National Laboratory, the results of this study using the naked eyes of human observers could potentially produce evidence that something is going on beyond standard quantum mechanics. This two of the longer things I have to read. According to Ananthaswamy, the work of this team, which also includes quantum physicists Paul Kwiat and Nobel laureate Anthony Leggett, both of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, could potentially point toward a possible resolution of the central problem of quantum mechanics, which is the so-called measurement problem. And conclusive resolution of the measurement problem, according to many experts, has been resistant since the birth of quantum mechanics. I'm paraphrasing now. So in other words, this movement in, I'll just keep going with this. This movement in physics is now saying that human observers directly, not looking into screens on detection devices, can be the main, sorry? I'm not using it right? This is not on. Sorry. Well, thank you for telling me. I'll go back to this one. I might need this again. Thank you for telling me. That the human observer could be the major agency of the next phase of basic scientific research. In other words, the basis for a scientific revolution. This is a piece I wrote reviewing this body of research, and also, as you'll see, leading into the connection with Vajrayana in a leading publication called Psychology Today. It was published a few months ago. Experiments suggest humans can directly observe the quantum. Some of physics' remaining secrets may actually relent through the human senses. Now it gets a little technical. Basically, what I'm saying here is that in order to test this ability to see a single photon, an individual subject had to be in a completely darkened chamber where the experiment was done, had to remain motionless for a long period of time, also had to have limited eye movements, and had to pay attention for a sustained period because there would be trials of photons that were presented to the observer. And in other words, what I saw when I first read these studies was this is a description of dark retreat meditation. And especially because when you look into the literature in Dzogchen and Kala Chakra, one of the goals of a dark retreat is actually to directly perceive the smallest atoms, including of light. I started this work about 10 years ago, and I set out to explore the hypothesis that advanced Vajrayana yoga practitioners could actually perceive the fabric of the universe, i.e. on the atomic and subatomic levels and beyond. My motivating belief was in the affirmative, and I wanted to generate the science that would legitimately investigate and test this hypothesis and begin to provide the means to understand the phenomenon if it was true. And from the side of scholarship and praxis, I found formal propositions from reliable sources that advanced yogis could potentially attain what was called yogic direct perception of the limits of phenomena, i.e. partless particles of light, matter, and space. The works I used there were by Anne Klein and Geshe Gendun Lodru, who is a major Gelugpa scholar, as many of you know, and many others too. So there's starting to become like this correspondence from Western science and Eastern, what I call Vajrayana science. So around this time, about 10 years ago, they were starting to get close to detecting that a person could see a single photon, but it wasn't until 2016 that the technology for generating single photons with that kind of precision and detecting the perception of them, that technology was advanced enough to make it conclusive. Okay, probably going to go over this really quick. I'm repeating myself now. What's happening is the detection of a single photon was fundamental for proceeding to more complicated investigations in quantum physics, including the quantum entanglement and what's known as a superposition, thank you, which is, it's like an existence of alternate realities that is really the nature of reality according to quantum physics, or leading interpretations of quantum physics, until an observation is made. And then then one reality comes from the process of making that measurement or detection or interacting with the system. So all of these phenomena can now be investigated directly with human observers, whereas before it was only human observers looking at, technological devices. And here's another key. The studies that showed some people could see one single photon also found that many people could not see the photon, or some could see it occasionally, but not with a high significant statistical significance. So what was happening in the running of these experiments was that people were getting trained, you could say in observational meditation, because they would have to sit still in a dark chamber, remain motionless, and keep a high level of attention for a long period of time while the trials were run. So this is really a form of meditation, although the researchers were not aware of that. And what it opens the door for is the fact that, thank you very much, when you have, individuals that are practicing intensively and extensively for years in training attention and sensory perceptual functioning, you're going to have better subjects for this kind of research, which I'm proposing should be the next phase in fundamental research of physics, should combine Western physics and cosmology with Vajrayana and maybe other traditions of intensive meditation. I'm skipping a little ahead because I'm going to be out of time. One other point that I want to make is the discoveries on vision were complemented in the other sensory research. So if most people don't know about the fact that all of us in this room have the potential to see a single photon, you're probably also not aware of the fact that we have the ability to hear sounds with an amplitude that's smaller than the diameter of an atom. And we can also distinguish two sounds that are 10 millionths of a second apart. This is, again, leading research done in leading institutions by leading researchers. We also have the ability to feel on a nanoscale with tactile sense, which, in fact, a recent discovery showed that human tactile sense could distinguish on the molecular level. We have that. That's one of the things that came out of when they were looking at interfaces between human feeling and robotics to perfect that. Nobody thought of, well, let's see how sensitive human tactile sense could be before this research came along in VR. Finally, it's just astounding that we're also capable of distinguishing 1 trillion smells, different smells. Before, the received wisdom was 10,000. The whole olfactory system turns out to be running on quantum principles and is part of a chemoreceptor system that runs throughout the whole body. So like the nose is the most sensitive part, but there's detection ability of chemicals in receptors spread through the whole body. So, stuff is too long, obviously, to read, and not well done in the slide. To wrap up, what I'm going to say is that another important fact about, let's say, well, what difference does it make if I can smell a trillion smells or feel on a molecular level? There's something known as cross-modal plasticity, in which the senses will share each other, the performance levels with each other. This happens, it's a neuroplastic phenomenon associated with what's called perceptual learning. So what's really important to say in my last couple of minutes, or 1 minute, is that when an advanced practitioner sinks into a very profound state of stillness, and all forms of noise, cognitive noise, sensory noise, somatic noise, internal noise is reduced profoundly. These senses emerge in the stillness, and they engage with the universe. And at this point, they're working in harmony, in what some consider to be like synesthesia. And this has also been described very specifically and explicitly in Vajrayāna literature and in interviews as well. So you can start to imagine that there's this very superior, advanced, almost unimaginable ability that we have latent inside of us that can be brought out through these practices of training attention and and sensory perceptual functioning. So I was just ending by saying that the Entanglement Frontier, the title of my paper, refers not only to the frontier in which humans have been found to be able to see quantum entanglement, but also to the fact that now leading cosmologists and physicists are saying that the fabric and structure of the universe emerges from quantum entanglement. This was not the way it was thought before. So we get glimpses of this in last sentence within ecology, in things like Indra's net, which shows this connectivity on a fundamental cosmic, macroscopic and microscopic scale. And some leading mathematicians have been using Indra's net now as a model in advanced mathematics and also in the Kala Chakra mandala. My apology for going over time, and thank you.